Good morning and welcome to all of you, dignitaries on the dais, teachers, participants, fellow scholars and dear students. Before we begin with the proceedings of the inaugural ceremony, I request all of you to stand up for the university song and prayer.
भाव सभर अद्भुत स्पंदन नित बिल से अहो मुदामय महाराजा कृष्ण कुमार सिंह जी भावनगर विश्वविद्यालय महाराजा कृष्ण कुमार सिंह जी भावनगर विश्वविद्यालय सतत बरसता विद्याना वरदान अहीं पल पल मुकुरित तेज धवल शुभ ज्ञान ज्योति निरतड़ों प्रज्वलित ज्ञानना ज्योति थकी पराजय महाराजा कृष्ण कुमार सिंह जी भावनगर विश्वविद्यालय अहीं अविरत चल के परम पुनित संस्कार अहीं केवल निर्मल प्रेम सहज शृंगार अनुपम उन्नत गौरव ना गुंजन नो वहे सदा महाराजा कृष्ण कुमार सिंह जी भावनगर विश्वविद्यालय महाराजा कृष्ण कुमार सिंह जी भावनगर विश्वविद्यालय.
Please take your seats. On behalf of the Department of English, Maharaja Krishna Kumar Singh Ji, Bhavnagar University, I welcome you all to the inaugural ceremony of the National Seminar on IKS and English Studies, organized under the promotion of Research in Higher Education initiative by the Knowledge Consortium of Gujarat, Government of Gujarat, India. We will begin the ceremony by welcoming the guests with a book. First, I request Dr. Vishal Pandya sir to kindly welcome Professor H.L. Chawda sir, member Board of Management, MKBU, and head the Department of Sociology, MKBU, with a book. Thank you, sir. Next, I request Dr. Tejal Ravia ma'am to welcome Principal Dr. Hetal Mehta ma'am, member of the Executive Council, Maharaja Krishna Kumar Singh Ji, Bhavnagar University, and Principal of Swami Sajanand College of Commerce and Management. Thank you, ma'am. Next, I request Vipul Guptani, sir, to welcome Principal Dr. Sunita Nimawat, ma'am. She's not here. Yeah, okay, yeah. Next, I request Dr. Komal Shadadpuri to welcome Principal Dr. Vishwash Jooshi, sir, Principal of Shamardas Arts College, Bhavnagar. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Next, I request Dr. Dilip Bharat, sir, to welcome our two distinguished plenary speakers for the day. First, Professor Dushyant Nimawat, sir. Okay. And next, Dr. Kalyani Vallat, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Next, I would now request you to kindly verbally welcome our guests and provide a brief introduction to the seminar.
Good morning, all the participants, resource persons, teachers, and students. Okay? So, this seminar on IKS and English studies, the concept of this idea about how Indian knowledge systems, or now as we also call it Bharatiya Gnan Parampara or Bharatiya Knowledge System, IKS or BKS, how it gets connected with English studies. What is the root of this proposal for seminar? As we now are aware that Government of Gujarat, Knowledge Consortium of Gujarat, they have come up with a very interesting scheme this year to provide funds to government colleges and universities to organize such seminars and conferences. So we are very thankful to the authorities of KCG, Knowledge Consortium of Gujarat, and Government of Gujarat for giving us funds to organize this event and accepting our proposal to have a seminar come workshop on IKS and English studies. Now, normally when we look at IKS, BKS, Bharati Gnan Parampara, it has always been seen as an attempt to decolonize. And when we see decolonization, we try to look at the history where the British colonial rule for more than 90 years directly under the throne of Queen Victoria, and even before there, East India Company ruled various parts of India in different ways, and how they try to damage the prevailing knowledge systems, not only in India, worldwide also. What happened in New Zealand, Australia, Canada, America has not happened to India. That is again a very good sign that the way this all tribal communities of New Zealand, Australia, America, they are completely colonized and they all have become white Christian societies now. India has not become that, and that is because of very powerful, very strong knowledge systems that prevailed in India. The very idea of including IKS in national education policy also is that let the new generation people, the new students, the future generation come to know that all fathers are not coming from Western society only. Normally when we see the history of knowledge systems, there is father of so and so, father of so and so thing. They all are normally the European people. That knowledge system which Europeans or the Western controls even today begins in the Renaissance time, during 15th century, 16th century. But knowledge systems prevailed beyond that also. So somewhere there is a huge gap in looking at what is the origin of knowledge systems. So in India, if we start looking that whether it is physics, chemistry, whether it is literature, art, music, whatever form of knowledge systems we try to look, what was the origin of that in Indian systems? So that was one idea with which it started coming. In its deep root, there is a kind of an anti-English sentiment also. Now, that is where our seminar tries to look, that rather than looking at this as an anti-English, we want to see that knowledge systems grow together. Instead of looking into the binaries of Western and Indian knowledge systems, can we see knowledge system as knowledge system? Whichever knowledge system is helping human beings, humanity, and how we can grow together, how simultaneously it can be looked. The Eastern idea which starts from Arabic world to Indian to the Chinese, the entire Occident, opposite to the Occident, the Orient, the entire Orient has an idea of looking at the world view in a complementary way. That is that idea of yin and yang. So black and white is a complementary. Male and female are complementary. Ardhanareshwar symbolically, metaphorically tries to represent that they are not opposite, but they are complementary. Somehow the Western idea tries to look, or even in India also there are such ideas, we try to look at the things in binary opposition. So how we can try to rethink, not in terms of binary oppositions, but in terms of how things are complementary to each other. So that was one idea with which we proposed this, that let us not see English as a colonial relic, English as something that is Gulami ka pratik. English is something that is owned by Indians. We have Indian English now. We do not speak like the Queen's English, or we do not mimic the way the British or the American wants to speak, but we speak English like a Gujarati person might be speaking, or a Tamil person, or a Malayali, or a Punjabi. They have their own accent, the influence of mother language, and we have accepted that version of English language. So that is what we try to see, rather than seeing it in an opposite manner. So the intellectual orientation of this initiative is very important to clarify and see also. To many of the abstract writers also, those who have presented, we wrote them, they try to see that you can see this particular thing from this perspective. The intention is not to approach Indian knowledge systems through the lens of post-colonial grievances or victimhood. Rather, the aim is to engage IKS and English studies as equal participants in the wider field of world literature and global intellectual traditions. Instead of using the word Western, if we use the word global, then we all become part of that, as normally the Indian knowledge systems, the philosophical backbone of the things which comes from Ved and Upanishad, they try to see that we look at the entire Vasudha as a Kutumb. We see one world, one earth, one home. That is the normal idea. So why don't we look at the thing from a global perspective rather than a Western perspective, which has the idea of colonial relics within it. The effort is to explore how IKS can inspire and enrich English studies without falling into either uncritical glorification or narratives of cultural victimhood. The approach therefore seeks a balanced scholarly engagement, neither asserting superiority nor operating from a sense of inferiority, but fostering a productive dialogue between knowledge traditions. And we have invited different speakers, and we also have given a specific area to deal with, which tells us that Indian knowledge systems in English studies has immense scope. So many things can be included in this. So we will have first Professor Dushyant Nimawat. He will challenge our reliance on frameworks like structuralism and post-colonial theory by proposing Indian research methodologies using Nyay Sutras and Bhartrhari's language philosophy as highly practical tools for literary inquiry. The second plenary speaker will be Dr. Kalyani Vallath, and she will take us into the world of ecology, rereading the classical Tamil framework of Tinai aesthetics to show how its mapping of landscape and emotion powerfully anticipates modern global eco-criticism. What we are missing out when we look at Indian or Bharatiya is the Dravidian tradition of knowledge systems. That also is somehow missed out. So we are too heavily concentrating on Sanskrit tradition as the Indian tradition, but the Dravidian tradition, Tamil, also is equally ancient language. So the voice from South India, Dr. Kalyani Vallath will try to talk about that. Post lunch we will have Dr. Kalyan Chattopadhyay, and he will tackle the classroom, directly offering rigorous pedagogical approaches to view philosophies like Vedanta and classical aesthetics like Ras and Dhwani into the very fabric of our literary analysis. Now, when we have something in syllabus, if we do not change pedagogical approaches, then things do not change. So Dr. Kalyan Chattopadhyay will try to connect that how pedagogically also we need to shift our attention towards Indian way of looking. Tomorrow morning we will have Professor Ashok Sachdev, who is coming from Indore, Madhya Pradesh, and he will trace the intellectual intersections between Indian spiritual traditions and the British American literary canon, creating a productive cross-cultural dialogue. We know that lots of American and British even European writings had been influenced by Indian philosophies and Indian writings also. Back then, when William Jones translated Shakuntala, and it reached to Germany after being translated from English into German language, and it gave a rise also to German Romanticism. So there is a very long tradition of how the Western writers, they were influenced by the Sanskritic tradition of writing. He will talk about those things. In American literature, we have transcendental writers also, and very famous writers have always been influenced by Indian thought. Professor Atanu Bhattacharya will join online, and he will try to talk about Bharatiya intellectual framework, showing how classical Indian reflections on language, meaning and thought can fundamentally expand the scope of our language studies. So his concentration will be on language studies. Professor Sachin Katkar, he will come tomorrow here, will join us, and he will talk about translation as a crucial intellectual bridge, looking at Indic translation theories and how they negotiate meaning across languages and cultures. The last one tomorrow after post lunch is by Dr. Amrita Das, and she will bring a different perspective that how the theorists, literary theorists of the 20th century were influenced by Indian thought. And she'll talk about Lucy Irigaray, a famous feminist critic, and how she borrowed ideas from Indian mythic concepts of French feminist theory. So these are the different speakers who are going to speak in 2 days about various aspects of the thing. We got very interesting papers also, and while reviewing some of the papers, I got some ideas that what the paper presenters, normally they all are online paper presenters. We have around 5 poster presentation also, which will be in the noon time. You all will get a chance during your lunch time to visit the room to see 5 posters being presented by the students also, and students and research scholars. So very interesting ideas are being shared by many speakers also. Any abstract which was relevant to the speakers, plenary speakers, I have shared the abstract with them also, so they also can connect that what the participants are thinking and doing that. We also wanted to see that this becomes very interesting, interactive event. So in advance, if you have any questions to plenary speakers, that also we asked. But unfortunately, we have not received any response so far to see whether you have gone through the name of the speakers, what is their abstract, and so you get mentally ready that you are going for a seminar and what is going to happen in a seminar, who are the people coming in the seminar, what are they going to talk about. That all was planned in advance and was shared with everybody so that in case. Had there been any questions, we would have shared with the experts so they can include that in your PowerPoint also. But still, while they make a presentation, if you have any curiosity, any questions, queries, please do not hesitate to ask the questions also. I again warmly welcome everybody in this seminar. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir. I will now request Principal Dr. Vishwash Jooshi, sir, to address the audience.
Respected dais, other teachers and students, my heart lifts up when I behold the rainbow. But I would say my heart lifts up when I behold the students of English literature. I'm quite new to this system of IKS, Indian Knowledge System. So yesterday I told Dr. Bharat sir that I won't be able to provide any thoughtful insights. But the tone has been very properly said by Dr. Bharat by saying that a very balanced approach is required. When we talk about India, when we use the term India, there are certain complexities, intricacies that surface. The first among them is its spatial element. India is a very large country, from north to south and from west to east. Prior to partition, it also included Pakistan. in the past, it also included certain other regions also. So this is a very huge land, vast land. To its complexity of spatial element is the temporal element. We said that our culture, our traditions, our civilization is 2000 years old, 5000 years old. So there is a long, there have been long decades and centuries of this tradition. There is another complexity. If we talk in terms of tradition, culture, habits, every state is like an independent country. Their traditions are quite different. Their habits are quite different. So this is another complexity when we talk about India. When you say Indian culture, what do you refer to? Which traditions, which culture, which civilization you refer to? Dr. Amartya Sen, in his book, The Argumentative Indian, he has put great arguments into this book, Argumentative Indian. The Ramayana and the Mahabharata, are these the only epics that we have to consider? The tradition of Ram, this is the only tradition that we have. Certain invasions have been made upon the country. After invasion, they have assimilated into our country. There are other races. They have assimilated into our countries. So there are simultaneous flows. There are simultaneous currents of civilization, traditions, and knowledge systems. So a very well balanced approach is required. Mere glorification of the things past or of the things Indian will not help. And at the same time, we should be aware that we cannot discard everything in the name of religion and superstitions. Everything is not superstitious. Everything does not need to be discarded, and everything does not need to be glorified. A well-balanced approach is required when we talk about Indian knowledge system. We were just talking about accents, and Sir also referred to that. Forget about English. If you talk about Gujarati, if you go to the remote corners of North Gujarati as well. So why are we focusing so much on accents? Let's speak English the way a Gujarati does. Let's speak Gujarati the way a Kathiawadi does. These are the elements which you cannot do away with. I also congratulate the postgraduate department of English and the head of the department, Dr. Bharat sir, for again organizing such a wonderful interaction regarding Indian knowledge system. My best wishes are with you, sir, and best of luck to the students who are going to present posters, who are going to present papers. Mere participation in this seminar will also bring a lot of insights into you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. To deliver the official greetings to our participants and the entire seminar, I will first request Principal Dr. Hital Mehta, ma'am, to address the audience.
Good morning. Today my role is different, as previously also Dr. Bharat sir has told me that you have to speak, not to speak but to greet and convey the best wishes on behalf of the university. Sir, basically it's a privilege for me, because returning to one's alma mater is not just a visit, it is a journey back to one's root. So I'm so much happy that once upon a time I'm sitting there and witness the so many events in the departments. Today, being an executive council member of the MK Bhavnagar University, I express my best wishes to the department and KCG for organizing IKS and English Studies National Seminar cum workshop. And on behalf of the university too, I heartily welcome Professor Nimawat sir, Professor Kalyani ma'am, and dignitaries on the dais, off the dais, and my dear students. I hope you will within 2 days get a good knowledge about the now it's not IKS but BKS. And once again, I express my heartily gratitude towards Dr. Dilip Barat sir, who is always eager to, in spite of so many busy schedule, he is always there for the students, with the students. So once again, on behalf of the university, I welcome all of you and a good luck to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I now request Professor H.L. Chawda, sir, to say a few words.
નમસ્કાર. ડાયસ પર બિરાજમાન મહાનુભાવો, ખાસ જેઓ થકી આપણે બધા નિમિત્ત બન્યા અથવા આવવાનું થયું છે, પ્રોફેસર દિલીપ બારડ સાહેબ ત્રેતા યુગમાં રાજા થયા, એનું ઇક્ષ્વાકુ વંશમાંથી આવેલા, આમ ગણાય એ રામના વંશજ. એમાં એક રાજા દિલીપ, બરાબર. મિત્રો, મા બાપે જે નામ રાખ્યું હશે એટલે એમને એક એવી ઓળખ ઊભી કરી. મિત્રો, મારે જે કહેવું છે એટલા માટે કે આખું નામ એમને ક્યારેય બોલતા નથી, કારણ કે પાછળનો જે નામનો અર્થ પછી કંઈક બદલાઈ જાય છે અથવા તો ચોક્કસ પ્રકારમાં એ આવી જતો હોય છે. પરંતુ સાહેબના નામનો અર્થ એ થાય જે સંભાળે, જે પાલન કરે, જે રક્ષા કરે એવું વ્યક્તિત્વ. મિત્રો, 17 જેટલા કેમ્પસમાં ડિપાર્ટમેન્ટ છે, આમાં મારું પણ અંદર સામેલ થઈ જાય. મારા 10 વર્ષનો બાયોડેટા તૈયાર કરું અને સાહેબનો છેલ્લા 1 વર્ષનો બાયોડેટા, કેટલો ટાઈમ મળતો હશે, આ વ્યક્તિત્વ કેટલું બધું કેટલા એંગલથી વિચારતું હશે, કેવી રીતે કામ કરવું, કેવી રીતે આગળ વધવું, સતત કામ કામ કામ. સાહેબ આખો દિવસ આ જંજાળ જે એમને ઉપાડી છે એનું ફળ મિત્રો હું એટલા માટે કહું છું કે જે મિત્રો તમે એમના અંડરમાં ભણી રહ્યા છો, MA કરી રહ્યા છો, એનું ગુજરાત અને ભારત કક્ષાએ તમારું બહુ ભવિષ્ય ઉજળું એમને બનાવી દીધું છે મિત્રો. અને એ પ્રયત્ન માટે ખરેખર હું દિલથી સાહેબને ખૂબ હૃદયપૂર્વક પાઠવું છું કે સાહેબ આપે જે બધાનું ઘડતર કર્યું છે, વ્યક્તિત્વ જે નિર્માણ કર્યું છે, એટલે એક અંધા યુગ કરીને ધર્મવીર ભારતીની એક સરસ નવલકથા છે હિન્દી સાહિત્યમાં, અને એમને એ એક નાનો એવો ટુકડો, એક વિધાન આવે છે. યુદ્ધમાં બધું લગભગ હવે પરાસ્ત થઈ અને છેલ્લે દુર્યોધનનું પણ એ પૂર્ણાહુતિ થઈ અથવા તો એનો પણ જે રીતે આપણે કહીએ સમાપ્તિનો છેલ્લો એ વ્યક્તિ પૂરું થાય છે. એટલે ગાંધારી વિદુરજીને એને કહે છે કે ભાઈ મને યુદ્ધભૂમિમાં તમે લઈ જાઓ, મારે આ બધું જોવું છે, મારો દુર્યોધન ક્યાં છે. એટલે લઈ આવે છે અને લઈ આવે છે ત્યાં બધું એના જે કંઈ કવચ, એના જે આયુધ, આ બધું જુદું જુદું જગ્યાએ પડ્યું હોય છે. એટલે પોતાની ગાંધારી પટ્ટી છોડી નાખે છે અને એ દુર્યોધનનું કવચ પકડી ખૂબ રડે છે, ખૂબ રડે છે. અને સાહજિક છે, માતાનો તો થાય જ એ પ્રકારે. પણ વિદુરજી એક બહુ સારી વાત કરે છે એમને, અને ગાંધારીને કહે છે કે અંતે તો રહે ને માણસના આખા જીવનનો સાર્થક જીવન ક્યારે બની શકે ને કેવું બને, અથવા તો શું એના માટે કહી શકાય. દુર્યોધન એને જીવ્યો ત્યાં સુધી એને કીધું હતું કે ભાઈ હું ધર્મય જાણું છું, બધું જાણું છું, છતાંય હું આચરણ કરી શકતો નથી. એટલે વિદુરજીનો જે છેલ્લો શબ્દ છે મિત્રો બહુ મહત્વનો છે. એમ કહે છે કે પોતે કરેલું આચરણ એ જ તમારા જીવનનું છેલ્લું કવચ બનતું હોય છે. તમે તમારા જીવનનું કરેલું આચરણ તમારો એ છેલ્લું એ તમારું કહેવાય ને કે એ જીવન એ બનતું હોય છે, એ જ તમારું કવચ છે, એ જ તમારી ઓળખ છે મિત્રો. ભારતીય જ્ઞાન સંપદા ઉપર તો ઘણી બધી વાતો, ઘણું બધું કહેવાશે, વાત થશે. મૂળભૂત અર્થ ભારતીય સાહિત્ય મિત્રો એમ કહેવાય કે લાઇટ ઓફ સોસાયટી, એટલે એમ કહેવાય કે ભાઈ શબ્દ જ બ્રહ્મ છે સાહેબ. આપણા દેશની આ સંસ્કૃતિનો ભાગ છે. પણ પશ્ચિમનું સાહિત્ય આમ નથી કહેતો મિત્રો, એ મિરર ઓફ સોસાયટી કહે છે. એનો અર્થ એ કે ભાઈ એ સમાજનો અરીસો છે, એ સમાજનો અરીસો છે. આપણે મિત્રો આ શા માટે વિચારવાની આ પ્રક્રિયા સુધી હવે ભારતીય જ્ઞાન સંપદાની વાત કરવાની જરૂરિયાત જન્મી. કેટલા બધા પ્રશ્નો, પરિસ્થિતિ, જે બધું નિર્માણ થયું, એટલે હવે આનો ઉકેલ ક્યાં છે? તો આપણે આપણા મૂળમાં પડેલી બાબતોમાં આપણે એ જોવાનો છે. કારણ કે પ્રાંતવાદ, જ્ઞાતિવાદ, ધર્મ, સ્ત્રી પુરુષ અસમાનતા, અનેક પ્રકારની સમસ્યાઓ જન્મી. એનો કોઈ ઉકેલ હોય તો ક્યાં રહ્યો છે? તો આપણે પાછું ફરીને હવે વળવાની એ જરૂરિયાત જન્મી છે. પણ સંપૂર્ણપણે આપણે એમાંય પણ વિવેક બુદ્ધિથી તાર્કિક રીતે એ વાત જોવાની છે. અને કદાચ તમને સૌથી વધુ જો કોઈ એમાં ભારતમાં જે વિદ્વાનો અથવા તો મહાનુભાવો થયા છે એમાં મહત્ત્વનું કોઈ હોય, અને બધા માટે બધા મહત્ત્વના હોય, પણ જેને વિશ્વએ પણ સ્વીકાર્યા હોય. આપણે તો કહીએ કે ભાઈ મારો બાપ મોટો છે, મારો બાપ મહાન છે, બધું છે, તો આપણા માટે જ હોય છે. પણ વિશ્વ માટે કોણ મહાન બન્યું, એને કોને મેસેજ આપી શક્યો? તો એક જ વ્યક્તિત્વ એવું આપણને દેખાય કે જેમાંથી આજે ખરેખર બધાને મેસેજ લઈ શકાય તેવું, તો એ ભગવાન બુદ્ધ છે મિત્રો. એને પોતે ક્યાંય ગોડ તરીકે શબ્દનો ઉલ્લેખ કર્યો નથી, તો આપણે સંબોધનમાં કહીએ છીએ, પણ એ ગૌતમ બુદ્ધ એમને જે કંઈ 4 આર્ય સત્યની વાત મૂકી, અને એમાં એ 4 આર્ય સત્યમાં છેલ્લો અષ્ટાંગ માર્ગ બતાવ્યો, અને અષ્ટાંગ માર્ગથી એમને જે મહત્ત્વની વાત કરી તે એ મધ્યમ માર્ગની વાત કરી. અને એ મધ્યમ માર્ગ જે છે એ અંતે મિત્રો તર્ક અને અનુભવ ઉપર આધારિત છે મિત્રો. અને ક્યાંય પણ એમને કોઈ એવી વાત નથી કરી કે જેમાં કોઈ તમે આંધળે આંધળું કોઈ સ્વીકારી લેવું, ક્યાંય વાત કરતા નથી મિત્રો. એટલે મિત્રો આપણી સંપદા બહુ મોટી, પણ તાર્કિક રીતે અનુભવના આધારે એને જીવનમાં એ ઉતારશો તો જ આપણે એ હવે પાછા જઈએ છીએ. તો એમાંથી જે આપણે કહીએ ને કે વિશ્વ કુટુંબની ભાવના આપી, યોગ આપ્યો છે, અહિંસા આપી છે, ઘણું બધું આ દેશે આપ્યું છે. તો બધાને પૂર્ણપણે આપણે મિત્રો અભ્યાસ કરી અને હવે વૈજ્ઞાનિક દ્રષ્ટિકોણથી આ બાબતને વિચારજો મિત્રો. ભાવનગરમાં મહત્ત્વના એવા 4 વ્યક્તિઓ થયા, અને ખાલી છેલ્લી વાત કરી એ હું વિરમું છું. અને 4 મહાનુભાવે બહુ ભારતીય જ્ઞાન સંપદા માટે બહુ મોટી વાત કરી. એમાં એક નાનાભાઈ ભટ્ટ છે, બીજું ગીજુભાઈ બધેકા છે, ત્રીજું હરભાઈ ત્રિવેદી છે, અને ચોથા માનભાઈ ભટ્ટ છે. મિત્રો ભારતની જે શિક્ષણ પ્રણાલી હતી અને જ્યાંથી શરૂ થઈને આપણે બધું જાણીએ છીએ, એમાં આપણે ડિટેલમાં નથી પડે, પણ કહેવાનો ભાવ એટલો હતો કે એ કેવી પ્રકારની હતી કે એવી પ્રથા ઊભી કરી કે ગ્રાન્ટ આપવાની, અભ્યાસક્રમો તૈયાર કરાવવાના, એની પરીક્ષા લેવાનું, એનું મૂલ્યાંકન કરવાનું, આ જે પ્રક્રિયા હતી એમાં મિત્રો ક્યાંય પણ આપણે અનુભવની વાત આપણે જોડી શકતા નહોતા. આ તો બધી જે સિસ્ટમ હતી એમાંથી જ વાત કે ભાઈ એનાથી વિશેષ કંઈક છે, અક્ષર સારા નથી તો બીજી ઘણી બધી બાબતો એનામાં પડી છે. તો એને પણ એ વાત એટલે નવી શિક્ષણ નીતિ જે દાખલ કરી એને નઈ તાલીમના સ્વરૂપે નાનાભાઈ ભટ્ટે જે તે સમયે એ વાત કરેલી. મિત્રો ગીજુભાઈ બધેકાનું નામ આપણે એમ કહીએ કે ભાઈ બાળક આપણે કહે ને કે તો એમના મોટું થઈ જતું સાહેબ. જે તે સમયે આપણે બહુ મોટા કુટુંબો હતા, બાળકો એ રીતે મોટા થવામાં ઘણા બધા વ્યક્તિઓ અંદર રોકાયેલા, પણ એનું સામાજિક મૂલ્ય શું, તો એ મિત્રો ગીજુભાઈ બધેકાએ આપ્યું, અને એ નવી તાલીમમાં આપણે એ કોઈને કોઈ રીતે એ આવરી લીધું છે. હરભાઈ ત્રિવેદીએ મિત્રો એટલે ગુજરાતના એ ફ્રોઈડ કહેવાય મિત્રો. અને એમનું પણ એટલું બધું મહત્ત્વનું પ્રદાન રહ્યું કે જેને ડોલ્ટન શિક્ષણ પ્રથા આપી. એને કીધું ભાઈ અમેરિકા કોઈ પણ ભારતમાં અત્યારે પરદેશની જે વિચારધારા શિક્ષણ છે એ અંગ્રેજોનો અમે વાત સ્વીકારીએ છીએ. તમે અમને કોઈ પણ વસ્તુ આપવામાં ના નથી, પણ તમે ગ્રાન્ટ આપશો તો માળખું અંદરનું અમે બનાવશું. માળખું અમે બનાવશું. ભાઈ અમારે કેવો રૂમ જોઈએ છે, કેવા પ્રકારની વ્યવસ્થા જોઈએ છે, તમારી સગવડતા લઈશું. મિત્રો છેલ્લે માનભાઈ ભટ્ટ મિત્રો સ્કિલની વાત કરી એટલે આપણે ત્યાં અહીંથી જ ભારતીય જ્ઞાન સંપદામાં અનેક વિદ્વાનોનું પ્રદાન છે. એટલે લોકલ લેવલે પણ આપણે વિચારશું તો એમાંથી ઘણા બધા માર્ગો મળશે. ડૉક્ટર બારડ સાહેબને ખરેખર અભિનંદન, ધન્યવાદ કે અમે તો બધા એક કરીને થાકી ગયા, હજી હિસાબનો મેળ નથી પડતો. અને આ સાહેબે ત્રીજું કામ ઉપાડી લીધું અને મિત્રો ક્યારે હિસાબ કરશે, શું કરશે ભગવાન જાણે. પણ મિત્રો ખૂબ ખૂબ ધન્યવાદ, ખૂબ ખૂબ અભિનંદન. ચાલો વિરમું. જય હિન્દ, જય ભારત.
Thank you, sir. With this, the inaugural ceremony comes to an end. Thank you all the dignitaries for remaining present and addressing the audience and for your presence, taking time for the ceremony. We will now move towards the first plenary address for the day by Professor Dushyant Nimawat. Sir, I will first request Ms. Megha Trivedi to introduce our speaker to the audience.
Good morning, everyone. It is my great pleasure to introduce our distinguished first plenary speaker, Dr. Dushyant Nimawat, sir. He is professor in the Department of English at the Gujarat University, Ahmedabad, who brings more than 2 decades of rich academic experience as a teacher, researcher, and academic leader in the field of humanities. His areas of interest including diaspora and migration studies, cultural studies, translation studies, comparative literature, English language teaching, communication skills, and Indian knowledge systems. Dr. Nimawat has an impressive research profile, having authored or co-authored around 14 books, 22 book chapters, and more than 50 research papers in national and international journals. He is currently serving as the director of an ICSSR-funded research project on integration of Bharatiya knowledge system in curricula of higher education in India. Reflecting his interdisciplinary approach, he has also filed patent related to the artificial intelligence in vocabulary acquisition and the impact of social media on listening skills. In recognition of his academic contribution, he had received prestigious honors such as the Best Researcher Awards in the year 2021 and the Asian Education Award in the year 2020. He also actively contributes to the academic community through editorial boards and the professional associations, and presently serves as the Western Zone Secretary of the Ecosophical Foundation of the Study of Literature and Environment. We warmly welcome you, sir. The stage is now yours. Thank you.
Good morning, all of you. I would say that my job is a bit easier as well as very difficult. Because I am supposed to set the tone of 2 days event. And it is very difficult, I know. To talk about Indian knowledge systems, right? I am stressing the word systems. easier in the sense that you are all settling down and may not be that attentive to it. So perhaps I think you may not ask me those many questions. Disclaimer, I am not expertise right into this. I have studied this for the last 2 years because I am working on a project that is on integration of Indian knowledge system in higher education in India. So this is what I have gathered, and actually that has made me go deep into the things that were said right in our scriptures. But at the same time, let me tell you that we are not going to argue over what is superior. Right? So there is disclaimer. If you want to have vada, right, positive, constructive argument, you are most welcome. But if you want vivad, then of course will not have. Because there are certain things you may agree or you may not agree when it comes to Indian knowledge system. Firstly, somewhere I think we haven't had that kind of orientation towards Indian knowledge systems because of Western education system. Nobody can deny that in India, I think in 1947, we had the time to think, sit back and think, what sort of education system do we want? But I think we did not bother. We continued the same kind of rot system as we now say. I would suggest a very good book, Beautiful Tree. It is ethnographical kind of book, if you say. Professor Dharampal has written this book. And if you read that book, you will realize that it consists more of the documents that the viceroys, officers of the British Empire wrote back to the empire, to Queen. And there are minute observations regarding Indian education system. And Professor Dharampal says that actually, and even when he met Gandhi in the jail, when he was in prison, at that time, both of them had the discussion. And Gandhi also agreed to the fact what Dharampal had to say in his book, that rather than, because Britishers claimed that India has been benefited because of the British education system. But rather, Professor Dharampal claims that it was reverse. Because the observations that are mentioned in those documents, and these are all official documents, you will find that they claim that if you go even to a small village of South India and there is suppose a pathshala, the teaching is done in a very unique way. These all things have been reported to the empire. So there is this claim by Professor Dharampal that rather our Indian education system had enriched the British education system. Still, I would say that let us because we are all researchers and we should not be blinded by the claims. We should go deep into the recesses, right, of those claims, and then whatever it is that we need to find out. Now, if you look at this thing, why Indian knowledge system as research methodology? Because it is more than, you can say, 2000-year-old microscope. Research rather should always be scientific. You require evidences. And therefore, perhaps I think in Indian knowledge system, we claim so high, but we fall behind. Simply because we do not have sometimes evidences. I read somewhere, right, in a research paper that only, you can say, 12% of scripts are available at present. Different subjects, different fields. So you can imagine that the kind of knowledge that we had was vast. But then also, that with this 12%, you can say, of scripts, we can definitely go ahead with whatever knowledge that we have. Then, this is also very important, because now what has happened with Western lens, that it has become almost a very static singular lens. You have only one voice. If you look at the research work being done in, suppose, feminism, you will always find, right, that it has almost similar kind of introduction, right, to every thesis. You will always talk about waves. You will always talk about, right, some, you can say, theories. But ultimately, do we have another option? And that's why, right, I am proposing alternative research methodology. I am not saying that this one is the only. And mind well, India is the land of plurality. And that's why systems. Because if we say system, then we are actually ignoring those systems which we call TKS, that is traditional knowledge systems. India being this vast, right, you can definitely understand that it has lot of such knowledge which may not be there in the center. So I think there can be an attempt, and with NEP 2020, I think we should always be very clear that when we say NEP, it is not new education policy, it is national education policy, right? And if you read it, then you will realize why national education policy. Because it is now rooted in India, or rather it urges us to revive the Indian heritage. And therefore, I think we can have another, right, you can say, lens in form of Indian knowledge system when it comes to research. Our knowledge was rather, or is, you can say, labeled as mystical cultural background, and therefore it was discarded. That it has, and you know that when you read or when you study works like E.M. Foster's Passage to India, that when you don't understand, you say that it is mystical, right? You don't understand. But you don't understand doesn't mean that others don't. right? And therefore, I think we can have another aspect to it. So, why do we need it? Firstly, do we need it? Right? And if you say yes, then why do we need it? Another very important thing, that what compels us to revisit Indian research methodology. I'll discuss that. What constitute Indian research methods and why and how do we need it, right? So these things we'll discuss. These two works are very important when it comes to decolonizing. I'm not going deep into it, but when it comes to talk about methodology, Linda Smith's work, Decolonizing Methodologies, you will find it is available on internet free of charge. You can download it, you can read. In beginning only, she is from New Zealand and she belongs to that Maori community. In the beginning itself, she says that research word is an abusive word, right? She says that is research word itself is an abusive word, because when we talk about research, it is almost singular that it is Western research method. And another thing, interestingly, she says that if you want to measure your knowledge, right, if you want to measure your knowledge, whether it is good or bad or mediocre, then you have the tools that are devised by the Westerners. Those are methods, tools. Suppose in terms of publication, we talk about Scopus, right? Now Scopus is, you can say, the benchmark or web of science in academia for publication. But does it mean that you can't have other benchmarks? You can have yours. My limited study about Scopus journals, right, that if you write in a particular format, create some tables, diagrams, you write paper in the manner the researchers write in science and technology, then it gets published. Now then, what about the heart of a paper? Is it simply the format? Is it simply the visualization that you use? So somewhere our benchmarks have become those benchmarks that come from the Western world. So Linda Smith says that actually we should, and that's why, right, it is very interesting to read the book, that you can develop your own tools, your own methods if you want to measure your knowledge. Because if you use, suppose, any Indian text, you apply, and I think research scholars find little difficulty also when they want to apply, suppose, feminism, because out and out it is a Western outlook, Western lens. Then if you apply, suppose especially on regional literature like Gujarati, then you will find it little difficult. You will find that something is not matching. It is simply because you are using the tool which has come from the other world. I don't say that you ignore that. I propose this as supplementary, complementary to the Western, because in English studies you are bound to use the Western lens, because our, you can say, raw material, right, that we use, if we talk about theories, suppose criticism, that you study mostly are the Western. Of course, now we are changing our syllabus as well, and I'm actually I should be happy, right, to state that when I studied here at Bhavnagar University in the year 96-98, at that time also we had a paper, comparative paper of literary criticism, which consisted of Indian theories as well as Western theories. Right, so it gave an insight into both the worlds. Some things may be similar, but some things may be dissimilar and contradictory also, that we need to understand, and that's why we need to develop. In India, in academia, we haven't been able to develop this, but we should be doing it as the Western research methodology. We have a static one now, right? If you read any book of research methodology, you will find some things common with other books. So that is a kind of framework or the design that you have. In this, it is little difficult because we never had methodology as static as the Western one. We had scattered ideas. Another thing which is very important is that we are talking about, as we discussed, 2000-year-old thought. So don't say that is there any reference about scientific fiction there, right? Because there won't be. You can understand that. Of course, we had Tantra Vidya, right? But then it's not enough. As I mentioned that we should have in research, literary research, or rather scientific research, we should always have evidences. And therefore, we should understand that that idea or a thought may be age-old thought, but can we apply that to the current contemporary knowledge also? Right, so that I think we need to think about. So this is also very important, decolonizing the thing. If you look at this Eurocentric model, then you will find that ultimately there are some cultural blind spots, because Western theories often misread non-Western texts, as I gave you the example of feminism. Because the methodology or the theories that you talk about has some cultural reference of the West, and if you are trying to apply on a non-Western text, there will be some blind spots, gaps you may call it. then you have to generalize the thing. But generalization, I think, is not, right, sometimes a good thing in research. I've seen many a times research scholars committing this mistake when they select, and that's why I think selection of the text is also very important. Because if you do not keep in mind the cultural reference of the text, then perhaps blind application of the Western theory may do injustice to the text. So perhaps I think we need to look at it. These are limitations, right? Then you can even say that somewhere we have some limitations in epistemology. West talks about reason, logic. We talk more about heart, rasa, and therefore there are some limitations. What you can apply to a particular thing and not. And that's why I told you in the beginning that there can be contradictions as well. Then, especially in English studies, when we talk about research methodology, it is out and out Western one. So, wherever you study, you have this one tool only, one way of researching only. That is universal way of research that comes into our mind. Unfortunately, in India, not many tried to look at these ideas and develop a kind of proper methodology. And perhaps I think that's why we are discussing this. So as we talked about homogeneity, and of course NEP 2020 has mandated that 5% of IKS should be there. But unfortunately, what have we done? We have developed completely new courses on Indian knowledge systems. We have started giving them graduation, right, in IKS, post-graduation in IKS, PhD in IKS. What is the mandate? Mandate is this, that 5% of IKS should be integrated in whatever you teach. And that's why, right, I should congratulate Professor Barad for bringing out this thing. Unfortunately, with NEP 2020, this idea started circulating, right, in air, that it is anti-English. There is no reference, right? I mean, back at my university, we have School of Languages. So initially when we used to discuss, teachers of Sanskrit used to say that there is no reference of English, so now there is nothing to be discussed, right, about English. Our days have started now for Sanskrit. I think it is about being local but still global. And I think English can play a very vital role. And that's why we need to look at this thing. And that's why Professor Barad has brought all the speakers on one platform dealing with different things. research methodology, some frameworks, from pedagogy, right, to other things. Because if we do not look at this thing 360 degree, then again there will be some problems. And that's why Indian knowledge system, we should not say that it is suffice to create a new world. These are all ideas that can be implemented, but in supplement to the Western canon, right? So that also we need to understand. And if we bring in IKS as methodology, then it enriches the work, because it brings in a new aspect into it. If you want your work to be, that you can say, multifaceted, then you can bring in Indian knowledge system. Because in India, especially about knowledge, we have different parameters. In Vedanta, right, if you go back to Vedanta, then about knowledge it says something. If you go back to Buddhist literature, it says something else. And that is the beauty of Indian knowledge system. If this Western dominance has to end, then you will find, if you look at this slide, I think I don't need to explain much. IKS is untapped. We have Pramana theories that offers structured framework. Right from the beginning, I'm going to discuss at length, right from how to finalize your topic to what should be the outcome of your research work has been given in a very structured way. Then of course rasa theory, I don't need to discuss that. Dvani theory also you might be studying. Vada tradition. Usually we avoid Vada because it turns into Vivad. But it is worth remembering that we belong to that land where new ideas are accepted. So when you discuss, because I think in Western research methodology it is said that pick up your stand, right, your stance right from the beginning, that okay, you believe in this, then don't change throughout. It means one way of considering the things that you study, then you can't change. But in Vad, it is not so. After discussion, if you find that no, who, right, the other one, the person is saying something right, then I should accept that stance also, that stand also. So it can be the mixture of two contradictory ideas also. Right? I think in Western theory it doesn't exist. You can't talk about two things which are contradictory, because then you will be in trouble when you discuss your findings of the research, right? Because at that time you will say that you want something concrete. But when we talk about knowledge, there can be different perspectives. That I think Western theory doesn't allow us to creep in. Alankar Shastra, of course, I think all of you know, since I'm the first one to discuss, allow me to discuss what is IKS. So, Nyaya Shastra that we have, Sankhya Yoga, Mimamsa, Vedanta, Alankara, Nyaya Shastra, Nirukta, Vyakarana, right? So, these all, you can say, different scriptures backed up with this deep knowledge. They make Indian knowledge system. Now, if you look at the range, it is tremendous. If you say that, okay, I want to master Vedanta, I think it is very difficult to master Vedanta, right, just in this life. And that's why don't think that this, right, is the combination of IKS, and if I know these things, then I will know what is IKS. It consists of so many different things. I'll come on the core, that's why I'm skipping bit. These 6 pramanas, these are, you can say, valid means of knowledge. First one is pratyaksha, that is perception, direct observation. If you consider that in research work, then close reading, phenomenological, you can say, textual kind of encounter. So, it starts with pratyaksha. Now, especially in some kind of research works like ethnography, pratyaksh can be very useful because it talks about direct observation. It talks about beyond text as well, that what is there on the page is not suffice. There are some things that go beyond those pages also, and those may be, you can say, observations as well. Then anuman, inference, logical reasoning, so deductive and inductive argumentation, right, in criticism, especially in science, definitely it helps a lot. But in English studies as well, and as I told in the beginning, research should always be scientific, and therefore we need to create that kind of environment, especially in matter of research, that our arguments are rooted in logic, not in air. If you look at the thesis of our universities, you will always find that research scholars are claiming and making some sweeping statements without logic. Because logic should be, argument should be based on this inference that you study, right? And of course it comes through your direct observation as well. Then shabda, testimony, verbal authority, citation authority, canonical knowledge, tradition. So words, actually, you can say, and in India, of course, we do not say, I think in inaugural only somebody spoke about shabda, that it is not only the meaning, the dictionary meaning, right? So that also comes these 6 pramanas, then upmana, analogy, comparison, comparative studies that we do. So comparative literature, cross-cultural analysis, arthapati, presumption, hypothesis. So it gives you a kind of, right, you can even say reader response theory can be right in the background, that how artha, that is the meaning, comes into existence. Because in India we had a very strong foundation of grammar, we had great grammarians, so there is lot of emphasis on, you can say, arth, and therefore you will always find somewhere the reference of arth. Then anuplabdhi, non-apprehension, absence, sometimes you can say limitation of your research work or delimitation of your research work, right? So there are, you can say, silences, absences, what texts do not say. So if you look at these 6 pramanas, we had this ancient tradition how knowledge can be validated. If you go by this 6 pramanas, then you will be in a position to state what sort of knowledge it is. Then now we come back right to research methodology. So if we have pramana based framework for research, suppose Western method, right, you have a look at it and you will get the idea. Close reading pratyaksha, right, direct perceptual encounter with the text. If you look at this, it goes parallelly, right, with the Western research methodology. And the beauty about this is that even when Western research methodology did not exist, at that time this was there in our scriptures. This was not used for research, because research is the invention of the Western world. That okay, you can study something like this, and of course we have received many benefits because of that, especially in field of science and technology. That how can you study something? But when it comes to humanities, arts, literature, then it has lot of things, that lot of, you can say, arguments to offer. So just go through, because I think otherwise I'll be short of time. Pratyaksha, I am not going deep into it. Rasa theory, of course, another way of looking at things. All of you have perhaps studied, or all of you know it. So we have these rasas. Dhvani theory, of course, you can say another interpretative methodology you have. Perhaps, I think, if I am not mistaken, sir, it is there in the syllabus of Bhavnagar University as well. Of course, it, and you see, it dates back 9th century, right, when it is said that the most valued literary meaning is not vakya, the literal, right, or lakshya, the indicated, but vyang, right, the suggested. So it is not only what is the meaning, but there is something beyond that as well. I think all of you know the theory, so I am not going deep into it. But if you look at the layers of it, the 3 layers, I would say, then literal, indicated and suggested. These three things are very different. Literal, you can say dictionary meaning. It is superficial. But then indicated is bit lit, you can say in between the lines, and then suggested. When you have the complete picture of it, and then what does it suggest? Does it simply suggest the literal meaning, or it suggests something else as well? So that you can do. Alankar Shastra, of course, we have a great, you can say, heritage of it. Again, if you look at, we have Western equivalents also, but again I would say 7th century. So this is age old idea, even before the Western world thought about it. Vad, Jalpa, Vedanta. Vada, of course, truth seeking debate. It's a debate, but it leads you to truth. You discuss something, you debate over something open-mindedly, taking into account different contradictory ideas, and then also accept it. And I think that is the best way in academia to learn something, to research on. Then Jalpa, competitive debate. We used to have arguments by the Pandits defeating the other Pandit, and of course it would end in a kind of compromise, but it was a kind of debate which used to turn right into some, you can say, hot arguments as well, but it used to be very useful in bringing out contradictory ideas especially. So when we compare things, two different aspects, in Western lens we say that you can compare two similar things only, right? You can't compare so many different contradictory things. Suppose you take one poem, from the Western world, Western literature, and you take one novel from, right? And now of course modern contemporary research works have broken down those walls as well, but usually you should have common genre of literature, you should have some common background, then only you can compare. Here it is not so. Then Vedanta, destructive critic, of course we shouldn't do that, that's why I am skipping it. I wish to go to this. If you look at this thing, you will get complete idea that we can have a common dialogic model where Western and Indian models can talk and bring about the best thing into it. Because one way is never going to be fruitful to us. If we bring in this lens along with the Western lens, then they can dialogue. Fine, people may have said that East and West can never meet, right? But in research, it can definitely. And therefore, perhaps I think we can have this kind of dialogic kind of framework. If you just go through it quickly, you will realize that how rasa, suppose, can be applied on post-colonial fiction also. Then you can have Dwani in poetry, because I think all of you have studied, so I am not going deep into it. Here I propose that at BA level, perhaps I think we can have a pramana framework which can help the students to understand that in ancient India also we had kind of framework to validate knowledge, right? And that will definitely help them to get some idea of IKS later on. Of course, there are some challenges. As I told you, it is not a concrete methodology as we have in the Western world. So there are some issues that you can say that, or challenges that you will always face. There can be institutional resistance also. Suppose as a supervisor, if I say that particular research scholar working under me wants to apply this framework, but then there are other people also involved into the process, and they may say that no, this cannot be done. Suppose last year only we had a discussion during RDC at my university. One of the students, that JRF, she came with a proposal decolonizing ecology, right? So and she talked about Ruth and right other aspects from ancient India. Outrightly she was rejected, right? And somebody, the expert, told that this cannot be done because it has never been validated. So in this kind of application of methodology from India, if you do that, there can be resistance also. But open-mindedly if we do it, yes, of course we need to again validate it, whether it is possible or not. But if you are convinced, then you should do that, because then it will pave way for the further research to be done in that sense. When you talk about IKS, it is out and out multidisciplinary, right? When you bring in that lens, it becomes multidisciplinary, and therefore you will have multiple aspects to deal with. So you can't have one particular area or field to work with. That you need to understand, and therefore you will require help of people belonging to different fields. This, if you look at, and of course I'll leave the material with Professor Barar. If you look at this table, you will realize that on this side there is IKS theory. Then there is an example of an English literary text. Usually, what sort of Western theory do we apply? And then, what new things can emerge if we apply IKS into it, or concept of IKS into it? So, it will give you a very clear idea that there is something new happening. If you simply apply Western one, then you will have one-sided. If Indian added to it, then you will always find something new. These are some of the references that I used. These are, you can say, you just have a glance over it, you will realize, especially this one, right? So I have given examples what IKS perspective can also emerge. If you look at these all things, I'll share with you in word format so that you can share with the students. So Vakrokti, suppose Ochitya, right? Purusharth, human goals framework, then Pramanas, suppose, right? So there is Western example as well, and what new thing can happen, or IKS perspective can emerge. There are so many, you can say, concepts that involve into Indian knowledge framework, so I can't discuss, of course, at present. But I'm happy that we have started this kind of debates, discussions, and I think this will lead us to certain, you can say, conclusion, fruitful outcomes in the years to come. I thank Professor Bharat for inviting me. I thank all of you. Thank you very much. If questions, then we can definitely have. Yes.
Thank you, sir. It was a very insightful and informative session for all of us. Now the session is open for Q&A. So if you have any question, then please ask. Just there. From audience, if you have any question, then you can ask.
Just a comment. Yes. It's not a question. In many Western theories, including psychoanalysis of Lacan or phenomenology, hermeneutics, there were originally deep interconnections with Indian knowledge systems because they were inspired by, but somehow it has been sidelined, and Jung, for example, even Derrida, many of them used to read, I don't think it is only Indian but also Chinese. We have to explore once again the origins of the Western theories and rediscover the strands of Oriental thought that have watered the roots of Western theory. That is a gap that I think people don't think of very much. In the beginning, before the 20th century, in the beginning of colonial period, there was a lot of interconnection with Oriental systems, even though it was Indological and colonial. All of them were not very receptive of Western ideas, Eastern ideas, I'm sure. But still there were connections, and it is in the 20th century that it became bifurcated, and this binary opposition thing became very strong. And I think 1 century of it is over now. It is time we talk about India or the Orient in the Occident. Even as we talk about the Occident in the Orient. Thank you.
I think we sometimes lack evidences, right? And therefore we can't claim as far as the roots are concerned. Some are established ones, and you can definitely find on internet as well. But see, it is all about idea, I think. So if we say that, and that's why I think in India this always happens, that we go to that extreme, that no, we are the supreme ones. So that kind of thing has happened to India, and therefore evidence based kind of research work in that direction hasn't happened. Either we say that no, we had the great thing, and we indulge into it, and we claimed so tall. But established links, as you say, that idea is always universal. So somewhere in one corner, right, of India, somebody is thinking, but it the same kind of thing, frequency, right, of the thought can be also somewhere else. So perhaps I think it is worth researching on it. It can definitely be right, a topic for the research work to be done in English studies, as you rightly said, that when we have some evidences with us, why don't we bring in, right, in the format of research work or some writing, so that people know it, that no, we thought these things before then you even. Right?
I don't believe what is there on the internet is complete. There is a lot of archival evidence still there. If you go to the biggest libraries of the West, there are still a lot of archives that are unexplored. And this kind of colonization of history, I mean the epistemological twist, was there from the Renaissance period. For example, Western knowledge itself of the Renaissance was based on Arabic knowledge. Averroes and Avicenna and a lot of Arab philosophers laid the foundations of Renaissance, but we don't hear about them. We never talk about them. Knowledge is always incomplete and biased and
just last one thing. Actually, just a few months back, when I visited Pitts River Museum in Oxford, it's very different than other museums, though it has been created by the Britishers. In the beginning only, right, on one wall, they said that this has to be taken as decolonizing movement. And they have clearly mentioned there that whatever is here, we have taken away from different cultures. Right? So, and their adjacent, you can say, nearby museum, Ashmolean Museum, they have one of the richest, you can say, archive of, right, all our manuscripts. Even just 2 days back, when I was having a discussion with one of the experts of IKS, he said the same, that India doesn't have the same number of manuscripts that this only one museum has. Right? So this has happened somewhere. And if they are available to us, they are trying. I was very happy. And they are ready to give. Right? But nobody is ready to take. So somewhere I think our urge, right, to bring out those things will only help. Otherwise, these will always be there in the background, right, where some people only talk about. Unfortunately.
Any question from online participants? Okay, here we have one question.
Can IKS be integrated into digital and technological research framework?
Yes, I couldn't discuss Tantra as a research methodology. There is separate works on Tantra Vidya, which you can study, because they have also shown how to archive knowledge. Right? So there I think some similarities you will definitely get. Yes, please.
So you mentioned about the archiving. So can digital archive distort as well as preserve the essence of the Indian knowledge system in the contemporary times, or it does not?
In what format?
In any format. If we are talking about the curricula, then does it distort, or does it have its essence? The originality is there, or it gets distorted?
See, ultimately now digital archiving, if it is done scientifically, then there is no harm. If it is unscientific and whatever you like that you archive may be contradictory also, so it may not lead to a good archive in a way, because then you will have very different opinions about certain things. What sort of material, and especially with English studies that will happen, because we do not know Sanskrit that much, right? So we may not be able to get the exact essence of what is there. So we may search on Google some translation. Then what sort of translation are we taking help of, right? So that I think matters.
Any question? Thank you, sir. Thank you, participants.
Thank you.
Now I would like to invite Prakruti ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir, for the insightful session. We will now offer you a memento as a token of our gratitude. I request Dr. Dilip Bharat, sir, to offer the memento to sir. Thank you, sir. I now hand over the mic to Rudra Upadhyay to briefly introduce our next speaker, Dr. Kalyani ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. Before begin the introduction of Kalyani ma'am, I would like to highlight a question that have we ever paused to think how deeply our landscapes shape our emotion, our culture and literature? This question becomes especially meaningful in context of Indian knowledge system, and artistic expression are deeply interconnected with our knowledge system. This session also invites us to explore exactly this rich and insightful relationship of literature and landscape. Now, on the discussion of landscape in Tinai poetics, we have Dr. Kalyani Valat with us. She is a distinguished educational pioneer, scholar, teacher, and contributor, an entrepreneur whose contribution to English studies and alternative education have made a significant impact in Kerala and across the India. She is the founder of Total English Solution, which later expanded as Vallath Education. Her notable academic contribution includes the compilation of student-oriented reference works, such as a contemporary encyclopedias on British literature, American literatures in 2 volumes, and Indian literature in 2 volumes. She is a recipient of the prestigious Shastri Indo-Canadian Institute Doctoral Research Fellowship, under which she conducted her PhD degree from the University of British Columbia, Canada, and the University of Kerala. She has also qualified UGC NET with JRF, serves as assistant professor, serves as assistant and associate editor of LitCrit, and the founder of eProof, a non-profit organization promoting interdisciplinary national and international academic forums, was a key speaker at Matrubhumi International Festival of Letters 2024. And now, today she will be dealing on the topic Landscape, Emotion and Ecological Meaning, Rereading Tinai Aesthetic in Global Literary Context. Now, I warmly welcome Dr. Kalyani Vallath ma'am to take over the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Rudra. Thank you, everyone, for inviting me here again and giving me this opportunity. It is a great pleasure to come to MKBU and meet all of you. And it is an even greater pleasure to be able to talk about Dravidian poetics. Like Nimawat sir also said, I am not an expert in this field because of the Western education system that we are all part of. We have not been given any opportunity to, or even time, to look at our own knowledge systems. We were always after Western authors and theories, because that is what had any value. And we were not even finding time to look at our systems, but happily, of late, we have started to do it. My parents were professors of Sanskrit, and they have always instilled in me a great love for not only the Sanskritic traditions, but also for Malayalam and Tamil knowledge systems. I have, in my career as a teacher of English literature, tried to integrate some of the ideas that I've got from my parents and from random reading into English literature studies. But today, I confess, for the first time ever, I am trying to talk about the Dravidian knowledge systems and integrate English literature studies into it. As I was listening to Dr. Nimawat, I was thinking that what we need is integration. We have to stop thinking about our knowledges and authors and experiences and whatever in compartments. We have to look at knowledge from our perspective as an Indian, as a Gujarati or a Malayali living in this century. So it is very, insightful to have such discussions. Tamil is, as Dilip Bharat sir also said, is as old as the Sanskrit tradition, and entire the communities of the south of India have been inspired and influenced very deeply by classical Tamil poetics, culture and history. Classical Tamil poetics provides an extraordinary systematic model for understanding the relationship between language and human emotion, which is something that Western thinkers have recently been talking about in terms of affect and other approaches. There are so many fancy words that have come into Western theory of late, and they all in different ways talk about human being and his or her relation with nature. Well, it is not a new thing at all. We have always been aware of this connection through literature and theory. But to go back to the BCs and look at Dravidian aesthetics and understand that it is still relevant today gives me kind of goosebump moment. The Tinai system articulated in the Tolkappiyam and exemplified in what is called Sangam poetry, which is poetry of Tamil Nadu of a certain period, Tamilagam as we call it, like Bharatavarsha. Tamilagam is not just Tamil Nadu, it is the entire region and culture of the area. Sangam poetry organizes literature and perception into Agam and Puram. Agam is the interior landscape and Puram is the exterior landscape, which I'll be talking about in more detail. So I have been inspired to look into Tinai and understand its relevance to each and every one of us because of a poet who brought Tinai in front of the entire world, and it is a poet that we all know and we study, and that is A.K. Ramanujan. A.K. Ramanujan has written a very massive book, which is actually a small book of translations of Tamil poetry, Tamil lyrics. It is the interior landscape, classical Tamil poems translated. As you know, Ramanujan is a folklorist, and this is an unforgettable sequence of love poems that connect in a very mystical way to love poetry of the entire world. If you read love poetry from China or Japan or Rumi or Kabir Das or any of the ancient love poets that you can think of, there are underlying connections that you see in these Tamil translations also. I do not know Tamil very much. I can barely read it. So I am, again, like Nimawat sir said, distanced from the original, which is inevitable. We students of world literature have to depend on translation. We cannot read everything in the original. But even though when we read a translation, it is not the original that we get, it is also a rich experience of the original that has come through some great translator. Now, unusual for a lecture or a paper, what I'm going to do is read for some 5 minutes from this book. Because I cannot replace Ramanujan's words. And secondly, as Nimawat sir introduced the Sanskritic traditions, I have the responsibility to introduce the Dravidian traditions. So we have to go back to the basics. You need to know a little bit about the history and the evolution of Tamil poetics and culture. In a very brief and simple manner, we'll look at it so that you will understand what I'm talking about. Tamil is one of the classical languages of India, and it is very few Tamilians these days who will understand the original classical Tamil. This language is spoken by 31 million Indians, and it is also there outside India in Ceylon, Malaya, Burma, some parts of Africa, Fiji Islands and the West Indies. It is one of the biggest spoken languages from India. Early classical Tamil literature is represented by 8 anthologies of lyrics, 10 long poems, and a grammar called the Tolkappiyam or Tolkappiyam as we write it, meaning the old composition. Now, the literature of classical Tamil later came to be known as Sangam literature. Sangam means an academy or fraternity, like we talk about the Academy of Plato. The word is probably borrowed from the vocabulary of Buddhism or Jainism, the two religions competing with Hinduism around the 6th and 7th centuries in South India. A 7th century commentator applied the terms to poets and spoke of 3 academies of Sangams. I am reading this so that we understand the immensity of this tradition. There were 3 huge academies or Sangams. Sangam means a group or a fraternity. He also asserted, the 7th century commentator also asserted that the 3 Sangams lasted 4,440, 3,700 and 1,850 years respectively. And they included immortal gods, sages and kings as member poets. These Sangam poets were, some of them were gods, obviously anonymously written by human beings, I guess, sages and kings. The grammar, so the grammar Tolkappiyam talks about these anthologies and these works, ancient works. Sangam verse varied in length from 4 to over 800 lines. Some poems had only 4 lines, some had 800 lines. There are 2,389 poems, and these are classified into Agam and Puram. 461 poets are known by proper names or by epithets. The others are anonymous. One of the anthologies of Agam poetry. Agam is interior, Puram is exterior. Agam is about love, but love is like an objective correlative here. It's like a metaphor. It is not only about the love between a man and woman. It's about so many different kinds of love and related experiences. In one of the Agam poems, Kuruntukai, there are 400 love poems. These are assigned to 205 poets. 13 are named after a striking phrase or metaphor in the poem assigned to them. They don't have names, they are named after the metaphor that they have used in their poems. Like in many Carnatic musicians like Tyagaraja also, we don't know them by their name, we know them by their poems and the magnificent epithets and metaphors that they have used. So the poems of Agam, the anthologies of Agam are Kuruntakai, Natrinai, Agananuru. These are all very basic. If you have not heard them, this is the first time you're hearing them. Please explore them. This is part of India too. And this is probably more India than many of the traditions that we know as India, because it is as ancient as you can imagine and it is more far-reaching than we can imagine. So Kuruntagai, Natrinai, Agananuru, Ainkurunuru, Kalittukai. These are the Agam anthologies. I want to read out these names so that we at least hear them. Puram anthologies are Purananoru, Paditrupatu. Paditrupatu means 10 songs. And Paripadal. So these anthologies are discussed, among other things, in the grammar Tolkappiyam. Tolkappiyam is the most important expository text for the understanding of early Tamil poetry. Interestingly, of course, there are 3 parts in Tolkappiyam: sounds, words, and meaning. I was going to say, interestingly, according to legend and according to some modern scholars, this grammar comes before the Sangam poems. How can that be? It is talking about Sangam literature, but it comes before the Sangam poems. But the conventions of the Sangam poems do not seem to be the outcome of a work of rhetoric either. So they are both independent of each other. The rhetorician summarized what was a live and continuing tradition. That is what we understand. It is not a book, it is a tradition. And Tolkappiyam emerges from that live and continuing tradition. And Sangam poems also come from the same tradition. Now, just a little more I'm going to read from here because you need to understand the foundational concepts. Sangam poetry is classified into Agam, or the inner part or the interior, and Puram, or the outer part. The Puram poems talk about kings, poets, places. It is public or social poetry. Whereas the Agam poems are directly about experience, not action. With your permission, I will read out. I'll occasionally read out a few poems. I'll read out a few lines. In these poems, there are some characters, and they are speaking to each other all the time. This poem is called "What a Hero's Mother Said." Okay, and this is so strikingly similar to many Native American or Maori or Aboriginal poems from Australia, etc. What a hero's mother said. I read. You stand against the pillar of my hut and ask me, where is your son? I don't really know. My womb is only a lair for that tiger. Her son is a tiger, a hero. You can see him now only in battlefields. This mother has completely given up her son. Her womb is a lair or a den for that tiger, and the tiger is now out in the open prowling in the battlefields. And the battlefields are not necessarily battlefields of war, it is also the world, you know. So what is this Tinai? If you have not heard about it before, you must have wondered what is it at all. Tolkappiyam distinguishes between Agam and Puram conventions, the love of man and woman is taken as an ideal expression of the inner world. The inner world that we all have is expressed as love. Love is not the only thing, it is an expression. Love in all its variety is presented in these poems. Love in separation, love in union, love before and after marriage, love in chastity, love in betrayal. This is the theme of Aham. There are 7 types of love that it talks about. Kaikile is the first, and Perundinai is the last. These two are not real beautiful love, because the first one is unrequited love, you don't get it back, and the last one is mismatched love. You know, it is like lovers cheating each other. So between these there are 5 kinds of love. Those are the 5 real kinds of love and love poetry that you see, and each of these is related to a landscape. Kurunji is the mountain flower. This is the Kurunji flower. It blooms once in 12 years, and Tamil Nadu and Kerala, some parts of Kerala are known for it. An entire mountain valley is clothed in this violet blue flowers, and people from all over the world come to see it. Kurunji is the mountain flower, and there is the Kurunji landscape, which is related to to love and secret union. That is the emotion that it is related to. We'll be talking about it. Mullai is the jasmine flower. You can see that here. It is the jasmine in the forest, and it is related to longing for the lover. which is a very important trope in Abhijnana Shakuntalam and other texts. We'll talk about that. Marudam is the mountain red flower that you see in the mountains, in riverine, not mountains, in riverine agricultural plains. Marudam is also related to emotions. And then Nathal is the water lily. It is also related to emotions. And finally, there is the Palay, or the evergreen tree, that is unaffected by drought. Palay is like the wasteland. It is dry, arid land. These four landscapes and trees, plants, emotions, they are all interconnected. Are you reminded of Northrop Frye or yeah, we will come to that. It is there everywhere. Why don't we see these connections? Why, when we talk about Northrop Frye, did we never talk about Tinai in the classroom? There are so many interconnections. Now, why am I talking about here? I want to say right in the beginning itself, because Sangam literature, which is about 300 BC to 300 AD, had a profound influence on shaping Kerala. Kerala was originally called Cheralam. Keralam was called Cheralam because it was the land of the Chera kings, Cheras of Mahodayapuram. You can see this is Kerala. Pandyas, Cholas, these are the major dynasties of South India at that time. And at multiple levels, Kerala has been influenced. There is historical memory of the Sangam period, the landscape imagination that we still share, the language, which are Malayalam and Tamil, deeply interconnected, the social values and cultural practices. Because much of Kerala formed part of Tamilagam, these works preserve the earliest literary portraits of our kings of Kerala, the Chera kings. Sangam texts like Pattinapalai and Agananuru describe the Chera kings whose realm was present-day Kerala. Today, Kerala was at that time a port for these kings. They conducted trade with Rome, Arabia, Mediterranean, etc. And Muziris is one of the biggest ports of that time. Right now, there is a very famous Kochi Muziris Biennale that is happening in Kerala, celebrating the port of Muziris. And you're all invited to come and visit the Biennale before the 31st of March. And that is when the Biennale would end. Kerala's historical environmental consciousness is reflected in its Kalaripayatulor, that is the martial arts that we have, the ritual feasting during festivals like Onam, the maritime culture that we have. We eat a lot of fish and we have lots of sailor legends, like you might have heard of Chemmin, the novel and the movie that we are known for. The matrilineal social structures that we have, because our men would always be at war or they would be somewhere else, and we had a matrilineal culture. The role of sacred geography, we have like sacred groves or carve related to gods and deities, and Kerala's profound multicultural ethos. Kerala perhaps is the one state that is most multicultural in this country because of our small landscape, our small geographic region. We have always lived abroad and in other places, and we have always brought into Kerala our other cultures, and we don't have a unique Kerala culture perhaps, and people make fun of us for that, but the reasons lie in history. Now, when I look upon Tinai as an ecological theory and look at it from a research perspective, myself this question: can the Tinai system be understood as a comprehensive ecological poetics, or is it just my claim? Or some of us, are in this field and we all talk about Tinai as a comprehensive system. Is it really so? Whose principles extend beyond classical Tamil literature to illuminate cross-cultural patterns. Will you Gujaratis find anything similar or connectable with Tinai culture? Can it illuminate cross-cultural patterns in literature, performance, cinema, and popular culture? I'm going to talk about movies and film songs also in this process. And there are also some questions that I raised. These are my research questions here. How does landscape function as a structural determinant of emotion? Can you define your emotion in terms of the landscape? How exactly does it happen? Do similar environment affect correspondences? Affect as in affect theory. Do environment affect correspondences appear in other traditions, or is it just Tamil traditions? What happens to these correspondences under modernity and urbanization? Come 20th century and 21st century, do we still find this relevant? These are the questions that I'm trying to answer. Before I move on, this paper argues that Tinai is not merely a descriptive classification of ancient poems. Okay, some ancient poems divided into 8 anthologies, 10 long poems. It's not just that, but it's a theory of how human emotion is ecologically grounded. Comparable landscape emotion mappings recur across Sanskrit literature, indigenous traditions, romantic poetry, modernist poetry, cinema, music, everywhere. I will try to draw some parallels. Modernity disrupts but does not erase these correspondences. Even though we have urbanity and modernity today, it did not erase these correspondences. They do persist in transformed forms. Tinai therefore offers a powerful framework for global comparative poetics and environmental humanities. That is my contention. Let us see how I am going to prove it. So this is the semiotics of Tinai. Each Tinai encodes a dense network of associations, similar to Northrop Frye. Kurunji, if you remember, it is the flower that blooms in 12 years. It is the emotion. It brings the emotion of secret union between lovers. It is the best of love. You know, secret love, the time is night and the ecology is mountains. Do I have to tell you how many movies will have a similar situation in the mountains, you know, lovers, night, and the spirit of Kurunji, isn't it? Right? Then what is Mullai? Mullai is the jasmine flower. It is representing waiting, but separation with hope. So remember, there is a progression here from union, separation, but there is hope, and then there is conflict, then there's more separation, and finally lost. It goes like that. Mullai is separation with hope, evening, forest, because the jasmine blooms in the forest. Have you heard of the Vanajotsna? The name of a jasmine plant is Vanajotsna. Where is it? It is in Avijnana Shakundalam. Our Shakuntala talks about her jasmine plant as her sister and calls it Vanajotsna, the moonlight of the forest. The jasmine flowers is compared to the moonlight of the forest. Right. Then Marudam. Marudam is the red tree that blooms in agricultural plains. It denotes conflict and domestic tension. Day and farmland is the ecology. Neidhal is longing because there is no hope. The lover has gone. There is no hope. And it is maritime. Neidhal is the water lily. Connected with seashores. In the ponds near seashores, you will find water lily gardens. And the time is twilight and the ecology is coast. Palai is not one of the main Tinais. Palai is crisis. It's a dangerous journey, noon and arid zone. It is not a separate Tinai. It comes from the other Tinais when there is desolation and destruction. Then Palai results. Let us go into these, Tinais one by one a little more deeply. Kurunji. Look at the Kurunji poems. Lovers meet secretly at night in mountainous terrain. This poem from Kuruntoke illustrates the spirit of Kurunji. He came through the mountain paths where Kurunji flowers bloom in the dark while the village slept, just before secret union. The mountains provide isolation from social surveillance. The lovers are alone. There is vertical transcendence because it's the mountains, and this is a liminal space between the worlds. They have to go back from the mountains, eventually. Kalidasa's Kumara Sambhava is set in the Himalayas, as you all know, a sublime and erotic, ascetic space. It is both erotic and ascetic. It is elevated away from the social world, intense with feeling. What is the opening of Kumara Sambhava? I am not good at Sanskrit, but my parents are both Sanskrit professors, so I'll try to read this. You may be able to read it better than me. Astuttharasyam dishi devadatma Himalayo nama nagadhiraja Purva parau toya nidhi vigahya sthida Prithvivya iva manadanda. I don't claim to understand what it is, but I looked up the meaning and I asked my father, and this is what it means. On the northern frontier of this country that forms the heartland of gods, intercalating himself into eastern and western oceans like a measuring stick of earth, there stands the sovereign of snowy mountains, renowned as Mount Himalayas. A breathtaking description of Himalayas is how Kumarasambhava begins with. Here the mountain is simultaneously ascetic, as it is in romantic literature. Byron or Wordsworth or the romantic poets would all talk about the mountain as ascetic. But it is also erotic because it houses Shiva's austerity and Parvati's desire. And if you talk about Bharatanatyam or one of the performance arts or even Sanskrit literature, what you see here is Sambhoga Shringara. In Vikramorvashiyam, another of his works, Pururavas wanders through wilderness in obsessive longing after Urvashi disappears, demonstrating how rugged terrain mirrors emotional extremity. Kalidasa has employed the landscape so evocatively in all his plays and Mahakavyas. Now, Indian cinema consistently uses mountainous landscapes, as we all know, for as a space for private and transgressive love. I found some random examples for you. One is Roja. I took Roja because it's originally Tamil, and Kashmir is there in Roja as well as Alepayude. Then Kashmir Ki Kali, of course, and also Dil Se, the Ladakh sequences, mountainous landscape for private and transgressive love, as I said. Bollywood songs also frequently stage lovers in snowy peaks or remote valleys. Mountains have always been associated with the union of true love. And Ye Chansa Roshan Chehra is the ultimate example of a film song where the mountainous landscape gives rise to romantic union. Now, going over to Mullai, in Abhijnana Shakuntalam again, Vanajotsna, as I told you, is the wild jasmine that Shakuntala treats as a sister. In Kurundokai, Ainkurunuru are the Mullai poems. Mullai poems portray the heroine waiting for her lover's return, but he will return. There is hope. Look at these lines. Like the slow grazing cattle resting in the shade at dusk, I wait without anger. Why without anger? Because she is angry that he is not with her, that he has gone away. But without anger, she is trying to be patient because she knows he will come back. In Mullai poems, there is usually cyclical time, stability will be there, trust will be there, which will dissipate, which will go away in the later Tinais. In Abhijnana Shakuntalam, the hermitage environment is a typical Mullai environment, embodying innocence and restrained desire. After abandonment, the same landscape will change. From Mullai, it will become Neital or Palai, because there is no more hope. There are many village-based songs and rural scenes in cinema that we can remember. Raja Hindustani of the fictional Palanket countryside and Bombay, Suhana, Safar aur Ye Mausam Nahi, Dilip Kumar, you can see him singing here. And also in literature, Thomas Gray's elegy written in a country churchyard, which is why I put these rustic tombstones here. And this is our Raja Ravi Varma's Shakuntala, her waiting for her lover. So pastoral setting for emotional suspension and waiting, it's there everywhere. You name it and you see it, whatever literature or movie. Marudam is these flowers, the river side, agrarian society of Agananuru in Kurundokai. Marudam landscapes depict settled agricultural life, fertile plains, irrigation canals, bustling village scenes. Again, you can think of so many movies which will show the stability of a village countryside, and also when there is a villain who's disrupting that serenity, how he is taught a lesson and finally the order is re-established. The river floods the fields he tills by day. yet at night he crosses them to another woman's house. So she is feeling betrayed, the singer, the woman who is speaking. And there is domestic conflict here. It is not pure love. She's being betrayed and cheated. Here in Marudam poems, you see property relations, social surveillance, moral regulation, Chemmeen of Tagadi Shivashankara Pillai, or Sholay, or Nectar in a Sieve are the examples that I thought of, where there is betrayal, there is trouble, and the village is the setting for the ideal that is being disrupted here. Agricultural village life portray domestic realism and moral complexity in Marudam poems. Now over to Neital. Neital, or the water lily. The text in Kuruntoke is Natrinai and Ainkurunuru. Natrinai and Ainkurunuru. Neital poetry expresses anxiety, and there is the possibility of loss. The waves that touch his shore have touched the land where he now lives. I don't think he's coming back to her. He has gone. It is separation. Yet they bring no word from him. Do you see the change in the love that is happening? It is going more and more towards separation. He has gone all off. I'm again reading from Ainkurunuru. He has gone all off by himself beyond the ways where tigers used to prowl and the toothbrush trees grow tall, their trunks parched. So Neital is very close to Palai, which is the next one, arid, dry, desert land, which is what T.S. Eliot's wasteland is like. There is another beautiful poem from A.K. Ramanujan's translation that I want to share with you. My lover, capable of terrible lies at night, lay close to me in a dream that lied like truth. I woke up. He's not there with her. It is a dream. I woke up still deceived and caressed the bed, thinking it my lover. It is terrible. I grow lean in loneliness, like a water lily gnawed by a beetle. The emotional, brilliance of these poems in original, as well as I read a few originals that I could understand, as well as in translation, is inexplicable. The Neital Tinai usually relates to migration narratives, going far away through the ocean. You can all remember Amitav Ghosh's Sea of Poppies or River of Smoke. The Ibis trilogy is a perfect example of how people are separated by the ocean. There is so much exile there. This is from French Lieutenant's Woman, Sarah Woodruff, waiting on the cob at Lyme Regis, waiting for her French lover. But it is ironic because she doesn't have a French lover. She is pretending. It is ironic use of Neital here, and also Life of Pi. That desolate loneliness of the ocean that you see in that novel and movie. Uire in Bombay and Zindagi Bhar Nahi Bhulegi from Barsat Ki Raat are all examples that I thought of. From literature, a classic example of Neital would be Chaucer's Franklin's Tale, where there is a woman, she has a husband, he has gone far away in the ocean and she is waiting for him. And the ocean is very rugged with stones because it's a Breton lay. It is in Brittany, which is a very rocky shore. And one man approaches her as a lover. He says, your husband is not going to come back. I will take care of you. She cannot forget her husband. And she tells her lover, this is Chaucer's Franklin's Tale. She tells her lover, I will accept you if you remove all these rocks from the Brittany coast. And this lover goes to a magician, gets all the rocks removed, thinking that she will accept him. But because all the rocks are now removed, her husband comes back home and she is reunited with her husband. This is the story of Chaucer's Franklin's Tale. I thought this is a beautiful example of Neital Tinai, but it is changing. At the end, it is not longing or separation, there is union. And the last one is Palai. Obviously, the war, the World War, the wasteland poem. As I told you, there is actually no separate landscape called Palai. During the summer months, the Kurunji and Mullai tracts are transformed into arid wastelands. Thus, they become the Palai landscape, which is dry, hot wasteland that cannot support life. Akananuru is the collection where you find Palai poems. This is the primary landscape for Vipralambha Shringara. Vipralambha Shringara, where the Uri or emotion is Piridal. Piridal means separation. You are separated from your lover and you are feeling the anxiety about it. It represents long-term separation of lovers, often due to the hero traveling through dangerous parched lands for wealth, education or war. Can you tell me one example of Piridal or Palai, Piridal or Piriyal in Malayalam, that means separation, or Palai from Homer? It is Penelope waiting for her husband Odysseus to come back. She feels such a Palai-like feeling until he comes back. He is also like a beggar when he comes. He is imprisoned. He is on the verge of death. She is also almost taken over by her enemies. That is true Palai. Homer. So many years before Tolkappiyam and Kurundokai, Homer wrote similarly. And in Ramayana, the movement of Rama and Sita into a harsh, untamed forest. Even though it's a forest, it is not Mullai, it is Palai, because there is a radical shift from the luxury of the city or Ayodhya, where there was Marudam, and he is going into a state of suffering and trial. Just as Palai is depicted as a parched, waterless wasteland, the Dandakaranya forest in Ramayana is a dense, dangerous wilderness filled with lurking Rakshasas and predatory animals. Modern parallels of Palai would be desert films, dystopian narratives. Any dystopian movie is Palai. Albert Camus' Outsider, where the harsh sun beats on Algeria, and that is almost like a wasteland. So is The Plague. Picasso's Guernica. This is a representation of T.S. Eliot's wasteland. These are the examples. Now, I have come to the end of the 5 Tinais. As you can see, this is not original. But it is original because it was so long ago, nobody copied from anywhere when Kurundokai and Tolkappiyam were written. Now, from the beginning of Western civilization, they had the idea of the great chain of being, that everything from God down to the minerals of the earth is interconnected. Our Ben Jonson's comedy of humors, the 4 humors come within this. The 4 humors, the 4 elements, the planets, the entire universe is part of the system of the great chain of being. I see a very striking parallel between the concept of Tinai and the great chain of being as well. Tinai assumes not merely that human beings live in nature, that they dwell in an ecological universe in which environment, culture, economy and affect are inseparable. Beyond languages, beyond cultures, beyond anything that is man-made. Man is not just human being now. Man is one of the animals. Man is part of nature, like you see at the end of Emperor Jones. In Emperor Jones also you can apply Tinai if you want. How from the comfort of the city or the town where he lived as a ruler, he is going to be an elemental man with just a loincloth, bare, vulnerable to the universe. So each Tinai connects us with the universe in different ways. This is a view closely resonating with ecological anthropology that studies the dynamic relationships between human populations and their biophysical environments. Tinai can therefore be understood as an early literary articulation of a broad human orientation towards inhabiting the environment, not just in terms of culture and materialism, but in so many other ways. Let me quickly take you through a comparison between Tinai and so many other knowledge systems that we know. In classical Indian aesthetics, Bharata's Nati Shastra explains aesthetic emotion or rasa as arising from Vibhava, Anubhava and Vyabhichari Bhava. Vibhava is the determinants, like a cold wind, a breeze is blowing on Shakuntala. And then her emotion is awakened. She is feeling emotion. And then she is expressing it. It becomes an emotional state. She is feeling shy. She is feeling, she is sweating. She is blushing. You know, all this is connected in rasa. It comes from nature. Vibhava is the natural phenomenon turning to Anubhava and Vibhijari Bhava. Vibhavas include both the persons involved and the environmental conditions that stimulate feeling. Landscape, season, time of day, flora, everything. The natural settings here are not a mere backdrop, but a constituent of the emotional disposition of the character. In Jayadeva's Gita Govinda, he says, Lalita Lavanga Lata Parishilana Komala Malaya Samire, which means in the soft Malaya breeze among the tender clove creepers. Which Sanskrit text is there that you can point out where nature is not evocative of emotion? It is so deeply interconnected. Here, the fragrant southern wind, the blossoming vines, the lush spring atmosphere intensify Sringara Rasa, which is why I have put this painting of Radha Krishna, preparing the emotional ground for the love play of Radha Krishna. The season acts as a catalytic determinant. It's a catalyst. Spring becomes synonymous with desire, renewal, and union. Moving on, Tinai has a lot of interconnection with performance also. Indian classical performance traditions demonstrate the ecological logic of Tinai. It does not rely just on the landscape, but environment is internalized and conveyed through embodied expression. The body becomes the site of the expression of Tinai. In these traditions, gesture, movement, rhythm, costume, music, everything becomes symbolic substitutes for physical setting. They will show the changes in the physical setting. They will show separation through their body, through their expression, through their mudras, through their clothing. There is a performative ecology of emotion that we see here, where a body itself becomes a site where landscape and affect converge. The landscape and so much of the colors of the landscape, the jasmine flowers, the shape of the whole Bharatanatyam dancer is in the shape of a flower, I think, or a petal, or, you know, it is so beautifully integrated into the art form. I have taken only Bharatanatyam because it's Tamil, but if you take any art form, you can prove this. Bharatanatyam, particularly in padams and javalis and emotional situations, are communicated through abhinaya rather than through backdrop or props or anything else. The dancer uses facial expression, eye movement, hand gestures or mudras, posture, everything communicating the settings and the situations. There are 8 kinds of nayikas in Bharatanatyam that we talk about. If you look at the 8 kinds of nayikas, they're all connected to Tinai-like union of affect or emotion and the landscape in different ways. I'm just introducing it to you, I'm not going into it. From our own Kathakali of Kerala also, we can see how forests, battlefields, palaces, journeys, everything is communicated through action. Similarly, in Elizabethan theatre, where there was no backdrop, no props were there, no curtains were there, they were acting, they were speaking about the landscape. In Macbeth alone, there are 40 speeches referring to the landscape, and the landscape is constitutive. It is a play. Macbeth is a play. To take an instance, to take an example, it's a play where night dominates, and it is a mood that is conveyed through the night. It is maybe Marudam or Palai. Marudam turning into Palai, I think, would be the Tinai of Macbeth. Now, indigenous and Adivasi systems also encode environmental knowledge. As you all know, I don't have to say this. Landscape is inseparable from their identity. Even their names are based on
landscape and seasons and all that. Mountains, rivers, forests, deserts are all understood as living presence. They are like characters in their life. They sustain memory, law, cosmology, education. Oral narratives function as histories, maps, ecological guides, ethical frameworks. Rather than presenting nature as external to human life, these traditions position humans as participants within a sentient environment bound by reciprocal responsibilities. Nature has a responsibility towards humans, nature cares for humans, protects humans, and human beings have a responsibility towards nature as well. Tinai aesthetics resonates strongly with these perspectives. Like indigenous narrative systems, it encodes ecological knowledge within literary form, linking livelihood, social organization, and emotional life to the landscape. I just have a few more minutes to go, but this is where I really come to English studies, because we have to connect IKS with English studies. Come to Romanticism, symbolism, and modernism. Romantic poetry elevates nature as a spiritual and metaphysical force, the guide, guardian, philosopher of Wordsworth, yet it reflects the subjective consciousness of the individual. Look at Wanderer Above the Mist painting by Caspar Friedrich. That man standing and looking at the thunderous cataract or the waterfall is the expression of sublimity. Tinai landscapes are not similar, are not exactly the same as Romanticism. In Romanticism, the landscape becomes an extension of interior feeling. We have pathetic fallacy and Wordsworth's recollective vision. He talks about recollection or recrudescence of coming back of the original feeling. Shelley talks about transcendence. Tinai is a little different because it operates as communal semiotic systems, not as individual private perception, but as communal semiotic system. This is Thomas Hardy's house. I have visited this house in Dorset, and this reminds us of Wessex novels of Hardy, where settings such as Egdon Heath function almost as autonomous agencies shaping human destiny. Eustacia Y in Return of the Native, living in Egdon Heath, wanting to go to Paris, desperately trying to marry Clym Yeobright, thinking that he will be able to take her and feeling disappointed about him, and then taking up Damned Wild Eve as her savior and finally dying of all this. That story cannot happen anywhere else. It is Egdon Heath, like a character that is constitutive of this plot. Egdon Heath and Wessex are so much, integrally connected with the stories that happen there. Shaping human destiny. The Heath resembles a Palai-like environment in Return of the Native, harsh, ancient, and indifferent. Similarly, in Tess of the D'Urbervilles and Jude the Obscure also, the setting is so harsh and indifferent to the suffering of the individual, generating a tragic determinism in which characters are products of environmental circumstances. This is what eventually became naturalism of Émile Zola and others. So, this is about Romanticism and Victorianism. Symbolism also talks about correspondence. Charles Baudelaire, Mallarmé, Verlaine, Valery, these writers talked about correspondence. What is correspondence? The deep spiritual and symbolic relationship that exists between the physical objects and human sensations. The things around you create a certain mood in you, a certain emotion in you. And that is what I was earlier talking about phenomenology also. Phenomenology is also a subjective focus on the thing itself. You are like meditative mood it creates. It is called bracketing. In phenomenology, bracketing means you are shutting out the external world and you are looking at this world with your subjective consciousness. So there is a mingling of what is around you with yourself, and that is nothing but Oriental meditation. It is similar to meditation. This bracketing is shutting out the world and focusing on yourself and the world around you in such depth that it gives you more deeper meanings. Come to modernism. we have modernist literature dramatizing the breakdown of the stable correspondence between land and meaning. In T.S. Eliot's Wasteland, we see a sterile, spiritually exhausted landscape, again analogous to Paley, but stripped of the cultural coherence that once made it meaningful and intelligible. Virginia Woolf's London or James Joyce's Dublin, D.H. Lawrence's concept of blood consciousness, these are all in different ways evocative of man's relationship with landscape. Of all these, mostly I would talk about D.H. Lawrence, who reasserts a vital connection between human sexuality and psychology and the non-human world. The image of Lady Chatterley and Oliver Mellors making love in the open, in the context of, in the company of the plants and the trees and the grass and the flowers, was scandalous to the Western mindset, because they could not, accept this union of man with nature, because Westerners always focused on the dichotomy between man versus nature. Structural, archetypal and semiotic perspectives also, I don't have to talk about it because we have already had Sir's lecture based on structuralism and post-structuralism and its connections. I would end this discussion with Tinai and contemporary eco-criticism, with the bridge being Northrop Frye's archetypal schema. Northrop Frye's Anatomy of Criticism proposes that literary works participate in a unified system structured by archetypes derived from myth and natural cycles. You might all be aware of this. I have given a table here so that you will understand better. If you want, like Sir said, I'll give you this presentation. Frye privileges mythic universals and cyclical temporality, whereas Tinai privileges localized geography. That is the difference between Frye and Tinai. However, there are very deep interconnections. We are not arguing that Tinai is what everybody else says, not at all. But the same connections, the same parallels are there everywhere. Every community, every age would look at it in a different way, but it is ultimately deriving from the same origins. So these are the two tables that I have for you. You can look at it later. And lastly, Tinai and contemporary eco-criticism. This comes full circle. Today, the Western world is talking about eco-criticism. There are anthropocentric models as well as the idea of Anthropocene, examining how culture, memory, subjectivity are all rooted in environments and what is the relationship between the environment and the human being. But if we integrate all these Western ideas into knowledge of Indian knowledge systems, and also which would also include Dravidian knowledge systems, we will have a holistic and totally different perspective and more meaningful perspective. Comparative analyses like this are very relevant, and in this age of climate crisis and ecological uncertainty, every time I come to Gujarat, it is hotter here and colder. Every time you will come to Kerala, you will find the same thing. Even if you go to New York or any other part of the world, it is the same. Our landscape is being raped by human civilizations. Our environment is retaliating. Tinai not only offers a mere historical insight, but conceptual resources for rethinking the bonds between environment, culture and affect. It reminds us that literary imagination has long been rooted in ecological consciousness. It's nothing new. We have to sit back and think about our roots once again. Thank you very much. I know it was a little long and tedious, but if you have one or two questions, maybe we can take those questions.
Thank you so much, Kalyani ma'am, for that such a insightful, thought-provoking session. Your thoughts have given us a deeper understanding of how literature, ecology and Indian knowledge can be interconnected. Now the session is open for the questions and answers. If you have any question, please raise your hand. Any questions? Yes.
Hello, ma'am. When you are showing us the semiotics of Tinai, you have been talk about two things. the Nathal and the Palai, right? But you have been mentioned that those two things are very close. But if we see about like landscape, it is very different. The one thing is about like seashore, and the another is like desert. So how it is close?
Seashore and desert are apparently very different, but the sea is like a desert. You understand? A sea is a space of desolation. Like think of Life of Pi. That kind of why is the Nathal or sea depicted there is because it connects with the earlier agricultural land and also the later desert. It is like a transition. The sea can be the space of separation. It can lead to people, being separated from their families and lovers. It can take you far away. People who go by sea might never return. That is why it is also like a desert. Thank you for that question.
Any questions?
You mentioned about the interconnectedness between certain Indian aesthetic theories like Ras theory with Tinai. So my question is like if Rasa might function as an inner experiential counterpart to Tinai's outer ecological mapping of emotion, then how can it function and why does it function like that way? Because I feel like the concept given by Abhinav Gupta of the Ras theory, I see that it might function as an inner experiential counterpart to what you mentioned about the Tinai.
Tinai, especially Agam poetry, is not about the external. It is about the inner experience, which is an expression of the outer manifestations of nature. You are again in your question, I think you are based on the dichotomy between the interior and the exterior. In Tinai, there is no dichotomy.
So Abhinav Gupta has mentioned about the exterior emotions showing in his color theory about certain ras and the deity preserved to that. So Tinai, like you mentioned, it is an inner form. So how can...
No, I think Abhinav Gupta's and Tinai both are about a harmonious connection between the outer and the inner. It is both similar in the sense that the external is coming inside and forming the rasa, as in Abhinav Gupta. And similarly in Tinai, I don't see... Would you like to respond to it, sir? Do you, Nimawat, sir? Do you... Maybe I didn't understand your question properly.
No, in semester 4 we have one essay on translating a Tamil poem by A.K. Ramanujan. And he gave a very interesting example in that, which explains or this gives answer to this also. He told that like there are several such ecological leaves or plants which are quite opposite. So they might be used for love also as well as for war also. Both ways. So that creates a kind of a binary opposition. He gave example of Krishna. Like Krishna is a metaphor of love as well as for war also. He's a hero of Kurukshetra also, and the Gopi songs and that all. So that is that opposition that is found in either of the things also. In that context, this can be seen.
But isn't it more about a harmony? I mean, both these are coming together in Krishna.
Yeah, that's like yin and yang, complementary to each other rather than opposite. The same thing can be the symbol of both the things.
Okay, any questions? Yes.
Yes, ma'am. You have very beautifully talked about Tinai aesthetics and Sangam literature, and you have also recited some of the lines which is translated into English by A.K. Ramanujan. So my question is very simple, that do Sangam literature includes also other genres of literature like novels, plays, or there is only poems?
Novel and novel is a very Western genre. There are no novels in Sangam literature. it is poetry. Sangam literature is majorly poetry, lyric poetry as well as long poems. Drama is there in Sanskrit traditions and other traditions, but Sangam is particularly poetry.
Okay.
Novel is not there in any of our Indian.
Like tales, there is like short tales like in prose other than from verse.
Tales, yeah. Stories and all. No, Sangam is poetry only.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now any questions apart? Ma'am, I have a question that to what extent does a translation of the Kalidasa or like in Sangam poetries or in a case of Jaidev, because especially in case of Jaidev there is a rhythm in Sanskrit which creates the meaning of poetry. So what does the translation of this ancient text do matter in convey the ecological and emotional depth of the text while we are understanding the literature through the lens of ecology?
Definitely a good translation should try to imitate the rhythm and bring in, if not the same rhythm, another rhythm. This is why things are lost in translation. But a good translation should imbibe the spirit and meaning of the original text and recreate that spirit of the text in the new language.
Okay.
Maybe Ramanujan has been able to achieve that to a great extent. But a translated work will never be the same as the original work, but it can bring in a new dimension through interpretation. It is more like the translator is like another author.
Yes.
So translation is like a dialogue with the original text, and it is like a criticism of the text or interpretation of the text. So that way it can add meaning, but a translated text is not the original text.
Yes. Okay, now any questions? Okay, so thank you so much. Now I hand over the mic to Ms. Prakruti Bhatt.
Thank you, Rudra. Thank you, ma'am, for the insightful session. We will offer you a memento again as a token of our gratitude. I request Bharat sir to offer the memento to ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. With this, we conclude the first half of the first day of National Seminar on IKS and English Studies. We will now take the lunch break, and afterwards, I request all the participants to come back to the court hall again for the next plenary sessions. Another announcement to make is 2 p.m. onwards. We have the parallel paper reading sessions, so do attend those live. The live streaming link will be shared with you in the group. So thank you, everyone. The lunch will be at the Department of English premises, so be there. And before 3, everybody should gather once again in the hall. Thank you.